We know obviously of the Louvre, we've heard about the Guggenheim, but this is the one that I'm surprised by myself to be really excited about.
The Natural History Museum, Abu Dhabi.
It's basically been described like going in a time machine.
What I really like about the Natural History Museum is we're going to see something that really does squarely look at Abu Dhabi, the UAE, and the Arabian Peninsula. Big cultural events this week.
Both very important.
Halloween and Diwali.
And in Dubai, there's 2 Dubai family destinations that are going to light up with fireworks to celebrate Diwali.
The BAPS Hindu Mandir is preparing for hundreds of thousands of visitors. The place of worship has already attracted more than 1.5 million visitors since opening in February.
So wait, you didn't tell us. What are you dressing up for in Halloween?
Hello everyone! Today we are going to be talking about the highly anticipated Natural History Museum Abu Dhabi.
And the Diwali and Halloween celebrations happening in the UAE.
And also the 50 most important Arabic novels of the 20th century. This is Culture Bites coming to you from the National News in Abu Dhabi. I'm Farah Andrews.
And I'm Maan Jalal. Hi.
Welcome
Hello.
back. You've been
Thanks.
away.
I have been away.
Is it nice to be back?
It's very nice to be back. I have a word of advice for everyone though.
He comes straight in with a warning.
Yes. If you are moving.
Oh, moving month?
Yes, moving month. Just be sure that you're organized. Don't think, oh, I can just do it the last minute, because you won't. So just be organized. Google Sheets. Google are your best friend.
Man knows well enough that I run my professional and also personal life on Google Sheets.
It's been life-changing, honestly.
I hear you.
Yeah.
How's it going? Have you moved yet?
No, next weekend I officially move, but you always think these things are going to be fun and easy, and I'll clear stuff, I'll get new stuff, but it's just, what is it? What do they say? Like after divorce or something, like moving is the most stressful.
Yeah, it's like divorce and moving are the 2 most stressful things you can do.
Yeah. It's just stressful, not because I'm a stressful person, but because it's like, you know how that phrase herding cats? Yeah. I'm like herding rabbits. Like I feel like it's more intense than that. It's just very difficult, but I'm cool. It's all good. I'm fine.
This time next week, will you have moved?
Yes, this time next week, I will be rested and everything will be done.
We'll
sorted.
have a nice zen.
Yes, nice zen moment.
Aww.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk culture.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have got the Saadiyat Cultural District, which is taking shape here in Abu Dhabi, which is extremely exciting. And this week, we have had a little bit of a preview into what for many will be one of the most exciting new destinations here, which is the Natural History Museum Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. So we've heard a lot about, we know obviously of the Louvre, we've heard about the Guggenheim, but this is the one that I'm surprised by myself to be really excited about after I read the piece that went live yesterday, right?
Yeah, this week.
This week. So there's one of our colleague Raz wrote this piece about what the museum is actually going to have inside. So this is the first bit of news that we know of what's going to be in there.
What I really like about the Natural History Museum is we're going to see something that really does squarely look at Abu Dhabi, the UAE, and the Arabian Peninsula. So what natural history museums look like around the world. Like the Natural History Museum in London is one of my favorite museums in the world. It's glorious. And then this summer I went to the Smithsonian's Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C. It was amazing. Yeah. And I think the thing that people are drawn to a lot in these spaces are the dinosaurs, right? And we've been kind of breadcrumbed that there is going to be some prehistoric content in the collection. But this week we saw a 7 million year old elephant skeleton that was going to be a part of it a couple of years ago. But this week we have seen a lot more. And we've been given a real insight into what the full collection is going to kind of tell us.
It's basically been described by Mark Beach, a scientific research lead at the Natural History Museum in Abu Dhabi, as like going in a time machine.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what I was really excited about this is that, as you would know from traveling and living abroad, that sometimes when people say, where do you live? And you say UAE or Dubai, they're like, oh, there's not really that much history there. What is there in terms of history? And what I love about this is that it really shows you, it really breaks that preconceived notion about what history means in this part of the world. It's not just, for example, new history from the past 50, 60 years, or like ruins like from, ancient civilizations, but also there is also like a prehistoric history here.
Yeah.
And that the natural fauna and flora or the landscape was very different and was also relevant and connected to other parts of the world.
Yeah, so what I really like about the Natural History Museum is we're going to see something that really does squarely look at Abu Dhabi, the UAE, and the Arabian Peninsula. We are not just going to have the same kind of prehistoric, not that they're dull, but there is it's like something very unique. And we're telling the prehistoric story of this region through that museum, which I absolutely love. Something that I really liked learning from the story that we ran is the fact that so much of this part of the world was really kind of like, it was connected and really similar geographically to parts of East Africa.
And I had no idea until I read our piece. I was like, oh, really?
And so there's going to be parts of the museum that kind of really spotlight that. The fact that there's going to be like evidence of like smaller hippopotamus that were roaming around this part of roaming around Abu Dhabi.
Which are not like the hippopotamuses from hippopotami. Hippopotamuses.
Actually, I hope it isn't hippopotami because I left it with an S in our story.
So they're similar to, but not exactly like the ones that are in East Africa now. So they were different
They
looking.
sound smaller.
Cuter.
And therefore, like mudeng.
Yeah.
So we just had loads of mudeng roaming around here millions of years ago, which is devastating to me now because I wish we had
at least one or two.
I would like a little mudeng here.
Yeah.
Just there right now. Other thing that's like super interesting is that there's evidence that there was a kind of herd of elephants that passed through this country millions of years ago.
Again, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like fossilized footprints of a herd. And it's amazing.
It is really amazing.
And so I'm really looking forward to it. But I love the idea that there's going to be parts of the collection that are quite current, kind of showing us the kind of the natural world that we have living here now. In some of the photos we have a taxidermied Indian roller bird. Do you know what they look like?
No.
Well, let me tell you. Basically, the day after I turned 30, I became interested in birds, like every other cliche on earth. And they are these stunning blue birds that...
Like tiny ones?
No, they're quite big. They're kind of like magpie-sized, maybe a bit smaller. They have blue wings. And I see them when I'm out and about walking in Dubai, where we live. And they bring me so much joy every time. Just because like seeing like a flash of blue in the sky is so beautiful. They're called Indian rollers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Indian rollers.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard.
Really beautiful.
I'm going to look it up. But you know about that section as well, what I thought was interesting, what I was reading is that they're also looking at how the desert is not just one thing. So there's different kinds of sand and different kinds of flora and fauna depending on the different chemicals of sand and how that changes what grows. Like we always think of desert as it's completely barren, right?
Yeah.
Even people who live here, like me. But then when you think about the different kinds of animals that live in the desert and different kind of vegetation that is in the desert and how it changes depending on part of the desert you're in, I found that really interesting. So I think the fact that they're highlighting that as well.
It's going to be so interesting. From memory, I think the curator's called Margaret Howarth, if I've got that wrong.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. She has said it is going to be a natural history museum with like a lens on Arabia. And I really love that. That kind of curatorial point of view is really interesting. And then I think as museums go, it is going to be somewhere that is so popular from like children to every adult. Is like we all love going and seeing fossilized dinosaurs and the kind of big super attractions. There's also like meteorites and it's going to be, and like big gems. It's going to be amazing.
And what I really like about it as well is that, I love all museums, but one could argue that like a museum like the Louvre Abu Dhabi or any museum that has mostly art is maybe catered to a more like not niche audience, but not everyone's going to be excited to go see art all the time. But I feel like the Natural History Museum, just generally, everyone is excited to go see that because everyone's kind of interested in the world.
Yeah, that's why, that accessibility, right?
Exactly. Perfect word, accessibility. It's like, what's his name? the guy that everybody loves with the English guy, the older man who talks about animals on TV.
David Attenborough?
Yes. I feel like Natural History Museum is like the David Attenborough because everyone loves to listen to him and see what he has to say. And I feel like it's that.
Yeah, exactly. You're completely right. It's actually when you were saying about the fact that we all kind of take for granted that there is like really beautiful biodiversity in the desert. I was like, David Attenborough has definitely told us all that there is beautiful biodiversity in the desert. But then, my notes, thank you very much, say that the museum is going to cover the entire age of the universe, a story that stretches 3.7 billion years. So that's a lot of storytelling to do.
A lot. Yikes.
And so the elements that are going to be particularly exciting are the Murchison meteorite, which contains a huge range of organic stardust and pre-solar grains that formed long before the current solar system existed. So it's going to be pieces. I said 7 million years. No, we're going back 13.7 billion.
That's amazing. I'm just trying to imagine like how it's going to be curated in a way that you experience all of that, like how they're going to do it in the different spaces. It's going to be
wonderful.
The only frustrating thing is that we have to wait till 2025.
Let's see. Yeah, the building is expected to finish in 2025. So we don't know exactly when it's going to open, but 2025, that's not that long now.
No,
it's only a couple of months.
Exactly.
It's coming faster than it should.
I haven't even thought about architecturally how this structure is going to look like from the outside and inside. It's going to look so amazing by the Guggenheim and by the Louvre Abu Dhabi.
That whole district
is going to be so cool.
This week, 2 very big dates for the diary.
Big cultural
events this week.
Both very important.
Coinciding on the same day.
Yes, unusual.
Halloween and Diwali.
Yeah, which will you be celebrating this year? I'm hoping to do both, but it's a tight weekend. I'm moving.
You've got a lot on. I'm very stressed for you. Yeah. I don't feel like next week you are going to be calm. For me, I will have definitely Halloween. Bigger in my house since Eddie's come on the scene, obviously bringing his American love for Halloween.
Of course.
And now, I do really like kind of handing sweets out to the little trick-or-treaters. I think it's the cutest thing ever. But I'm not 100% sure if I'm... Oh, actually, no, I am. I am going to a Halloween party.
Oh, you are? Okay, so you'll be dressing up.
But not on the 31st.
Okay. But Halloween, within...
Halloween weekend. But no, I don't think I'll necessarily be celebrating Diwali. But my compound absolutely is. There are beautiful lights absolutely everywhere. And last night, the firecrackers started.
Nice.
Which is nice, but not nice for my dog.
Yeah.
She's just going to be wearing her anxiety jacket for the week.
Right.
That's fine. Whatever. She's fine.
But that's one of the nice things about when you're in Dubai, like even in my compound area, you see all the buildings with the lights and you can see who's celebrating and who's like excited to celebrate. I love that visual. Any holiday that has like a very strong visual presence, I think it's nice. It's always light and it's really nice.
There are a lot of people on our team that will be celebrating Diwali. Including yourself.
Yes, I will be going to my really good friend who has a big Diwali party every year. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to be wearing the word has escaped me. Let me ask one of our producers. Sherwani. So I'll be wearing a Sherwani, which is the male cultural dress for men. So I'm excited about that. I love the food. I love the celebration. I love the candles. I love the lights. It's just, it's a nice time. And I like celebrating any of my friends' religious holidays.
And those kind of beautiful.
But do you know much about Diwali? I don't know much. I didn't know much about it until we were looking it up. And that it is, obviously it's a festival of lights, but I didn't know that Diwali usually falls in early autumn, coinciding with the new moon, deemed the darkest night of the Hindu lunar calendar. Yeah,
obviously we know it's the festival of lights. I love the kind of symbolization of the triumph of light over darkness and the kind of themes of positivity, hope, and renewal. Yeah. That's really nice because I like that it is kind of the exact opposite of Easter, like opposite ends of the year, not opposite in terms of meaning, but like opposite ends of the year. Like Easter in the Western world and in Christianity is spring, renewal.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And like
seasonally.
New birth. And that's why we have like the little lambs and rabbits because it's all like spring metaphor. And so it's the same here.
Yeah.
Kind of a chance for renewal.
But it's also interesting because across all religions, Abrahamic or not, there's always this thing about light.
Yeah.
pushing out darkness or light being the beacon of hope. So I like that idea. Like I like how these common ideas, concept, themes are always in all religions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very
And there's
cool.
going to be so many events for both Halloween and Diwali over the weekend. But here in Abu Dhabi, the new Hindu temple that opened this year, we wrote about it a lot when it opened. Was it this year?
I think so.
It's been either a long year or a short year, who knows. The BAPS Hindu Mandir is preparing for hundreds of thousands of visitors. The place of worship has already attracted more than 1.5 million visitors since opening in February. Yes, it was this year. So there's going to be an awful lot of people kind of there this weekend to celebrate at the temple.
And in Dubai, there's 2 Dubai family destinations that are going to light up with fireworks to celebrate Diwali, with the waterfront promenade in Seef on Friday and Global Village on Friday and Saturday as well. So November 1 and 2. Of course, Global Village will be like really busy.
There's usually fireworks at Global Village.
Yeah. So wait, you didn't tell us. What are you dressing up for in Halloween?
I don't 100% know yet. But my current thinking, and I don't know if this is too niche, this is really going to I don't know the people that I'm going to this party with that well. So what would be an easy thing to do is just put on a black dress, witch's hat, off I go.
Yes.
But what my brain is currently telling me to do is go as Pesto the Penguin and wear, do you know about Pesto the Penguin?
Yes.
Internet phenomenon.
Yes.
In Melbourne.
Yes.
The cutest penguin ever, who is giant. So I was going to, but he's starting to lose his feathers and become not fluffy and cute. So what my brain is currently doing, I'll check in next week and see if I actually do this.
See if it's irrelevant.
To wear a black dress and other penguin accessories like a beak and penguin feet. But cover myself in feather boas and then gradually lose my feathers throughout the evening.
It's a performance piece.
It's art.
It's art.
I'm basically going to be a 2024 version of the ugly duckling. Except Pesto is beautiful.
But isn't it amazing that if you go and you don't know anyone there and they'll spot it straight away if they know?
Do you think people will?
They might. You'll find a kindred spirit.
I've asked my friend to go as Mudang. That's why that connected in my head earlier. She's less keen. But I was like, why would you not want to be the cutest hippo that's ever been born?
Yeah, who's like a viral sensation right now. Yeah.
It's like, go as Mudang. Like grey makeup, cute little pink cheeks.
Or put like a leaf, because right now there's like a video of them going around.
When I tell you I watched that like 5 times yesterday. It's like my screensaver for my brain is Mudang with a leaf on her nose.
Mudang's a girl hippo?
I believe she is female, but sorry if I've gendered her.
Yeah. But no, she's very cute. And I think I would go. If I was your friend, I would go as her. More recognizable maybe than the penguin.
Yeah, she is. Mudang is definitely more mainstream. So now we are going to chat about a very important project that you have been working on for the last little while.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about it last week, but I was like, no, we need you.
Yes, it's a really cool, exciting project that was dear to all of our hearts. So me and 3 of my other colleagues, Saeed, Razmik Birjan, and William Malali, who's our editor for Arts. And Faisal, yes. It's a really important, cool story. So 50 most important Arabic novels of the 20th century. So as you can imagine, we created this list of these really important novels, and it was slightly a colossal task. I mean, even me going in there thinking, this shouldn't be too difficult. But once we started doing the research and to break down like per Arab country, we realized like we were really spoiled for so many novels, and how are we going to break this down?
So from my desk, I've had lots of conversations with you guys about this list, and was very, very grateful for you and your spreadsheets, because I kept on getting sent spreadsheets. And I was like, and then at one stage, I was sent 84, and I was like, this isn't 50.
No,
And you're like, no, but just send that off to be approved. And I was like, no. Cut this down. We need it to be 50. And so I felt for you all that kind of pressure. But we pulled the list in with a lot of expert voices.
Yes, expert voices, people from the literary community in the UAE and abroad, and asked them like based on their recommendations. And it was cool that so many of the same novels were being recommended by different people, and including between me, Raz, and Saeed, who have read a lot of these novels. We also saw correlation between that. So that helped a lot. It was more like the finer details from countries like, there's 22 Arab countries officially in the Arab League. So there are some countries that we don't know much about the history of literature. So it was a great learning experience for me. Like, I don't know much about the, Arabic novels in Libya, whereas in Egypt, there's an abundance of novels, and in the 20th century, it's a really interesting time in the Arab world in the Middle East, because a lot of countries at the time were coming into their own as modern Arab countries. They were like being decolonized, or they were, coming out of like very difficult times, or they're being very modernized, and they were trying to grapple between what does it mean to be a traditional Arabic country with very traditional values, and then to be, in quotation marks, modern. And a lot of that was being reflected by a lot of these Arab writers who either were traveling abroad to study in Europe or in the US, and then coming back and taking that sensibility and that Western way of storytelling and then combining it with this oral tradition of storytelling. So you end up having this really interesting fusion of different ways of looking at the world and different ways of describing the world in Arabic novels. So that was really cool learning about that from countries that I'm not very familiar with.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah.
We were kind to ourselves and we didn't make it a chart. So there is not one definitive winner in our list. It's alphabetical and it's split up by countries.
Yeah.
So it is, kind of country by country guide to some of the most important, what we deem to be the most important literary works from that country. But if you were, so I have not read any of the books on the list. All of the books on the list are written primarily, they were written in Arabic,
initially,
correct?
And then
a lot of them, most of them have been translated into English.
Some into French, not into English yet, but yeah.
So if you were telling someone like me, just telling me, the kind of 3 books that I should read from the list, and you can't just say the Cairo trilogy as your 3 books, what would they be?
So they would, you can't say the Cairo trilogy because it's a very popular trilogy.
You could say it's one of your books, just not all 3.
No, you mean all 3? Yes, definitely one of. It's a trilogy, but one of them, or it can't be all 3. Definitely the Cairo trilogy by Najib Mahfouz, because, and I don't like to make these comparisons, but just to make it easier, in a way he is like the Charles Dickens of the Arab world, in that he describes the city, the streets, the lives of people in a very Dickensian type of way. So you really get a feel for not only the atmosphere, the time, but you really get an idea of the different facets of each character. And those 3 novels follows one family, across the 20th century, and how the family's life is reflected through the changing societal and political life of Egypt. So it's a really great way to learn about Egyptian social and political history, but also the region through the lens of a family, through the domestic life. So I think that is one of those 3 novels, or all 3, is a great one to read. I think a really, really important one of, I think, the most important Arab novels ever is Tayyib Salah's Seasons of Migration to the North. This novel is so important because it's even though it's set in Sudan and it's about a man who studies in the UK, and then everything he learns there, he wants to bring back to his village in Sudan, and he wants to educate people in Sudan to be more like the West, or be more quote unquote modern. But when he goes back, he realizes that he doesn't know who he is anymore. He doesn't know if he's a Western Sudanese person or he's very Sudanese. And all of these concepts and questions that I was talking about before about what it means to be Arab are sort of brought up in the novel. And it's written so beautifully and deals with these concepts and ideas that are still really relevant today.
That's literally what I was just thinking. Like, so much of that is still
very timeless, very yeah. So definitely that's a really important novel to read. And then another one would be Ghassan Kanafani's Men in the Sun.
I have read so much about this, so I think I just need to read this first, because it comes up so much as like a reference that is so relevant today. Yeah,
it's probably a very seminal novel from the 20th century about Palestine. So if you really want to understand understand the Palestinian story and the Palestinian cause, this is one of those novels. It's about Palestinian identity and displacement, and it really sets the tone for so many other Palestinian novels that grapple with the same thing. It's difficult to talk about it without giving anything away, so I'm just going to leave it there. I read it years ago. I should reread it actually. But there's so many other novels on the list that deal with so many of the things that the Arab world is still dealing with now, whether it's displacement or war or identity, or, women's issues across the region. And what I love about this list that we did is that there's so much synergy between all the different novels from different countries, but they're also uniquely written, very unique to the communities that's within the country and very unique to the country itself. But they're also, like you said, they're universal. So if you're new to the region or you don't live here and you order one of these books, you will find something in there that you connect with. And I also want to say just one more thing. The way we determined what was important, like 50 most important novels, it was the novel that either highlighted a country or community or a cause that was never highlighted before, or it was a novel that was written in a very different, interesting way that changed the literary way that the Arabs approached novel writing. Because in the Middle East, before the 20th century, storytelling was all oral. Right. Yeah. And printing only came into the Middle East in like the early 20th century. So these are some of the first experiments of novel writing in the Arab world as, beginning, middle, and end. Before that, it was like 1001 Nights, where it's like a million stories in one.
Yeah.
So they're just really interesting books to read from a perspective of, what does storytelling mean in the Middle East?
Like the 19th century around the world was so significant for the kind of advances industry-wide in the printing press, right? So that is kind of when mass sharing of this kind of information was becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And then the world moved in different ways, in different paces, but the sheer prevalent, like the output that came, because when we were talking about the list originally, it was just going to be the most important works of Arabic fiction
of all time. And we were like, this is difficult.
It was, that list is not 50.
Yeah.
And so now we've given ourselves probably a bigger challenge, and that's separating it to kind of pre-20th century. So there is going to be a lot. There's going to be still kind of so much that we have that we can go through. Well, you guys can go through. I'm using the pronoun we there very liberally. And then we're also, we again, going to look at 21st century literature. So next year will be 25 years into this century.
Yeah.
And there has been so much.
That's scary.
I know.
Years.
It just made my heart hurt a little bit. From the list, how much of it do you think you've read?
Not as much as I would. From 50, I would say I'm a good half. So a good 20
That's
to 25.
amazing.
Yeah, but then there were so many novels like, I should have read this. This is really important. How have I not read this,
That's good. You've got a reading list.
Yes. But you know what's so exciting as well, like working on this, it made me realize like the 21st century, not only because like you mentioned before, these novels were written in Arabic first, right? But in the 21st century, we have novels that were written in Arabic that are important, but then also there are Arab novelists who grew up in the West that are writing about the Arab world. And there are really important novels there that need to, that's a completely different list.
That's going to be a head scratcher for how we define and narrow down that list.
Exactly. And also there was so many short stories written in the 20th century that were very important that are not novels, but they're short stories. And like, that's an interesting list as well. Like, what are the short stories that, people should know, or short story collections from the Arab world? I
absolutely love collections of short stories.
Yeah,
I think they're so overlooked when people are talking about literature in general.
Yeah, even out the Arab world, you're right. In the West, it's very difficult to find a good short story collection.
But then they are like the nicest. Like they are so nice to read because you get like real closure.
Yeah.
In one reading session.
Yeah.
You can kind of really get that full story. Reading a short story is super, super satisfying. I really do like reading short stories.
It is.
So maybe that's my very accessible entry to Arabic literature, is if you recommend some short stories for me.
Yes, I actually have the perfect book, and I will bring it to you, and I'll actually bring it next week so we can talk about as my recommendation.
Let's talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect, yeah.
On the subject of recommendations, shall we?
Shall we? Yes. Do you want to go first?
Sure. We've gone from very highbrow literature, and I'm going to take us. Hey, I'm not going to call it lowbrow. I'm going to call it universal.
It's universal. It's culturally relevant.
We're looking back to 1986, but I'm not recommending that everyone reads Julie Cooper's book, The Rivals, but I have watched the series. I have watched Hulu, but Disney Plus here.
Oh, okay. Oh, perfect.
So yeah, Rivals is on Disney Plus. It has been a minute since I have devoured a whole series and basically watched it in a weekend, which is what I did this weekend.
You're a fan of the novel?
Yes, I read the novel. I read the novel when I was like 16, 17-ish. Julie Cooper. Dame Julie Cooper,
yeah, she's a dame,
should I say.
Yeah.
She is very, very famous for writing romantic literature set in the British upper class.
Yeah.
So it's very horsey.
Yeah, very horsey, very countryside.
It's very
posh.
hay bales.
Yeah.
And they aren't for everybody.
They are or aren't?
Aren't.
Oh,
I would, no, yeah. I think there's...
The books, no, but I think the show would appeal to everyone.
The show's probably got quite a universal appeal.
Would you say it's kind of like a more elevated dynasty?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So it's set in 1986. The cast is brilliant. It's David Tennant. It is Danny Dyer. Do you know Danny Dyer?
Yes, of course.
My goodness, he is so good as Freddie. He's my favorite character in the whole show. So Freddie is somebody who kind of joins. It's very snobby. This whole thing is very snobby. It's class, like everyone's posher than the next person in a countryside village in the Cotswolds in England. And Freddie's character comes in as a working class guy who has done incredibly well in technology. So he's actually richer than most of these snobby rich people. And they turn their nose up at him and his wife. But then a lot of them really do like him because he is just a very good person. So Danny Dyer's character is phenomenal. Emily Atack's in it. It's set in 1986, so it is enormous hair.
The fashion's amazing, obviously.
It's so much costume jewelry, big hair. The hairspray budget on the show must have been exceptional. And the music is chef's kiss. I've downloaded a playlist for the show, and I have really gone back to the 80s musically since the weekend.
I'm reading the book now. I'm like about quarter in, and like if you haven't read it,
I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, it's really an enjoyable read. It's really good, and I want to finish it before I watch the show.
You do love the characters, and then
she's a great writer.
And from my point of view, I read it so long ago, but I do think that they do it justice in this TV show. It's got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes when I last checked, so it's obviously got a pretty universal tick of approval.
Thumbs up.
What is your recommendation, please, sir?
So a couple of weeks ago, I wrote a listicle on the new releases for autumn fall novel releases.
We have got you very busy writing about books recently.
Yeah, hey, I'm not complaining. And one of them really caught my eye, and it's called A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Leong. And I have I'm really interested right now in novels that are either historical or epic fantasies that are based on stories from Asia, because I'm not familiar with those, right? So I grew up with either Arab stories or stories from the West, like, the Narnias, the Lord of the Rings that are steeped in, Western or Eastern. So I don't know much about Asia. So this is one of those. It's based on this very famous myth in China about a woman called Xinxi. I think that's how you pronounce it in English. And she's a renowned beauty from a very small fishing village, who's part of a kingdom that's just lost a massive war to another kingdom. And the military general spots her and says, "Oh, this young woman is very beautiful. I must train her to use her beauty as a weapon to bring down the kingdom that has us oppressed." So he trains her to be like an assassin, perfect, wife to the king of the warring kingdom. But obviously, they fall in love. He sends her off to the kingdom, and then nothing is as it seems. So I'll leave it at that. But it's basically about war. There's a bit of love. You learn a little about Chinese history, a little bit about Chinese myth. And it's written in and we've used this word so many times today, such an accessible way with like really big ideas, really big emotions, but written very accessibly. And it's a fun, easy, quick read. I've lost my book because I'm in the middle of moving, but I have like this much left. So when I get home today, I'm going to be looking for it. But yeah, it's a really great book to read. I highly recommend for the end of the year.
That was a really nice list. I really enjoyed reading your autumn reading list, and I added a lot of them to my want to read list on Goodreads, including Sally Rooney's Intermezzo. Have you read that yet?
No, I haven't read that yet.
It's on my list. I think that's us for today.
That's us. Yeah, that's us.
Thank you very much for listening. If you like this podcast, please go and follow and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app.
And don't forget to tell your friends and family about it and to follow us on social media.
Bye.
Bye.